Right, ¿qué pasa? Welcome back to another Black Clover Mobile video. So today we're going to be breaking down a few of the current meta teams and teams which you should be focusing on building at the moment, which will help you playing in PvP and obviously clearing PvE game modes in general, right? So when it comes to team building, there are always a few things you'd have to take into consideration. Obviously, check out certain tier lists. Oh my days, he absolutely destroyed my Mimosa right there. Check out a few tier lists. Get yourself attuned to how the game works and what mechanics actually are important, right? That's the first thing. Once you have a general understanding of how the game works, try to build your team around the different focus points. So for example, you're trying to clear PvE game mode, always check what kind of enemies you're facing and then adjust your team accordingly, right? If you do that right at the beginning, you will be able to basically maximize your efforts and be able to mostly beat every single game mode. Like in this case, I'm actually getting absolutely destroyed by seasonal Asta. Like he literally hits like a truck, and it's insane. I did lose that one. And yes, the meta has shifted quite a bit actually since the pre download phase. The meta has actually shifted extremely, so much that units that were pre download meta are not really meta now anymore, or are still meta but aren't really as crucial as, for instance, both Yamis. I mean, if you have either Yami, you can't go wrong with that character. Either Yami will be a crazy good addition to your team, and is definitely one of the characters you want to be having in your team. Or Lotus, for instance. Lotus is one of the characters. If you have him in your team, he is going to be serving his purpose right in PvP. Like he's one of the PvP units you actually want to be having in your team, right? That's one thing about Lotus. Then there are units like this Yuno, for instance. He is crazy. Asta, the combination between Yuno and Asta will be crazy. Then there are characters like the seasonal Mimosa, which is available right now, which would actually be a very good addition if you can get your hands on her. That is also a viable character to get. Now we're going to be looking at in a second at the current top highest tier teams which are rating currently, to see what characters are actually right at the top in the top leagues and what other people are using, because you go orientate yourself on how other people play the game in order to be better at the game yourself. So yeah, he did actually lose that one. I was able to beat him, right? Now let's look at the current meta teams, right? So we are at the top rank right there, are we? Yes, we are at the top rank right there. So let's look at what other people using in those ranks. At the top, we see predominantly, obviously, Yami, the seasonal one, which is in a lot of teams, and at rank 4, the buffed Yami, which is also available right now. Other characters include Charlotte, she is also in there. Fuego Leon, he's also up there. And Heath Grice is actually one of the most underrated characters right now. Like he is, don't fool him. He is up there in the meta, and he drops as an SR character, but he is definitely one of the best characters to get up to SSR and UR and LR and so forth. Jack the Ripper is going to be one. Jack the Ripper is going to be one of the highest ones. Lotus as well. Mars obviously going to be dominating the current meta. Rill is gonna be also a good support unit in the current meta. And yeah, Yami, Sukihiro, obviously the tenacity ones and the proficiency one, both of them are gonna be useful. And obviously the Yuno of the Golden Dawn, the SR version, he's gonna be one of the better characters to be using in the current game, right? So these are just a few of the characters you want to be having in your team and basically trying to level up. Let me give you a few team suggestions as well if you're trying to focus on building good teams, right? So this team over here is a very well balanced team. You have a perfect match, which is Yami, Sukihiro, and Jack. These two actually do incredible amounts of damage, single DPS. So these two in the team, together with Lotus as lead and Mimosa as support, healing, and buffing unit, is actually very, very solid overall team and can get you pretty high in the current PvP meta. Then there is a sort of mixed team, which is the Golden Dawn, Yuno, and the SR Asta, together with the two Red Bull dudes. And this team is actually a perfect match team on either side, and is actually a pretty balanced team, which is pretty good for clearing a lot of PvE content. With this team as it stands, I was able to clear even higher difficulties than my actual power level lets me do. So definitely don't underestimate this team. Then next up, we have another girls power team with one lead unit, and this dude right here. This dude, don't get it wrong, he is probably one of the best support characters in the entire game right now. Leveling him up to UR is definitely worth it. Then we have our first meta team. This team, trust me, you will be seeing more often in the current meta. With Yuno, Grice, Lotus, and Jack the Ripper, this team will actually be one of the teams dominating the current meta. And the second meta team will be this, with the Golden Dawn leader up there, Lotus, Mimosa, and Jack the Ripper. This team will also be dominating. You could also substitute Jack for the current the tenacity Yami. He's actually a good version to use, or you could use him for the proficiency Yami. So either one of them would actually do good instead of Jack. But Jack is up there in the meta, and you could also change around. So the Golden Vermin is gonna be as the main leader in this team. And these are just some team suggestions. Obviously, you could build different teams. I've seen some meta teams with what's her name, Charlotte Rosalie. She's actually one of the better units. She's a tenacity character. So obviously, choose your team builds also according to how and who you're facing, right? You don't always want to go into the same enemy or into different enemies with the same team. Hence, it is very important to build a wide variety of characters, level them all up, max them up, and then get yourself onto the PvE game mode and PvP game mode. And I hope this video gave y'all a good idea on how to build teams and what current teams are actually meta. Always do check up the rankings in the PvP game mode to see what teams are actually up there, and you get yourself a good idea of what teams you should be using yourself. Anyways, I'm going to conclude the video right there. So I thank you all for joining again. Take care of yourselves, and until next time.